He locked her in the basement, his own mother, and he didn't even care. Evelyn Reed, a retired teacher and widow, had spent years serving her family, cooking, cleaning, caring for her son and his children. But when her son, David, decided she was too much of a burden, he pushed her aside like old furniture. But Evelyn didn't scream. She didn't beg. She sat in the cold, dark basement and quietly made a plan. I'm curious, where in the world are you joining us from? Drop your city or country in the comments and make sure you're subscribed for all the latest updates. The door slammed shut behind her, hard enough to make the bulb above flicker. Evelyn turned just in time to hear the bolt slide into place, locked, from the outside. Then came the voices, clear, unkind, meant to be heard. She's a useless old fool now. Let her stay down there. Her son's voice, her own flesh and blood. Evelyn stood frozen, not from fear, but from the weight of that sentence. Her son, the one she raised alone after Harold's first stroke, now tossed her aside like expired milk. A breath caught in her throat. She moved to the door, laid her hand against it, but didn't knock. What was the point? Their laughter drifted through the floorboards above. Not wild or wicked, just casual. That made it worse. This wasn't a moment of madness. It was routine. Planned. Her feet shuffled slowly backward. The basement was unfinished. Concrete floor, half-empty paint cans, rust-streaked utility sink, no chair, no blankets, not even a clock. A room for storage, a room for discards. And now her. She sat on the floor, back to the wall, knees drawn up, arms crossed tightly. Her sweater still smelled faintly of lavender, the one her granddaughter said reminded her of cookies. Evelyn closed her eyes, tried to picture the little girl's face, but all she saw was her son's, older, harder, colder. He didn't look back. And he shoved her down here. What had she done? Loved too much, given too freely. She had sold her house to help him after the second baby, moved in to make life easier. Cooked, cleaned, paid for their couple, played chauffeur, nanny, nurse. And now, this. Her chest tightened, but she refused to cry. Not yet. Instead, she listened. Not for rescue. There would be none. But for clarity. The quiet became a mirror, and in it, Evelyn saw the truth. She had been erased. A ghost in her own family. A burden. But ghosts remembered. She stood, slowly, stiff joints protesting. She moved toward the far wall, searching for anything she could use. The cabinet by the stairs. Her fingers tugged it open. Paint cans. Tools. A long-forgotten Wi-Fi booster. Dusty and gray. Her heart beat faster. She plugged it in. The green light blinked. Once, twice, then held. Hope. From her pocket, she pulled out the small flip phone Grace had given her. Just for emergencies, her lawyer friend insisted. Evelyn had thought it silly. Now it felt like salvation. She paced the stairs. 1 bar, then 2. Enough. Her thumb clicked open the tiny email app. She typed with care, each word deliberate. Grace, it's Evelyn. They've locked me in the basement. I need help. Come quietly. Please don't tell them you're coming. She paused, reread it, pressed send. The phone buzzed softly. Message sent. Evelyn closed her eyes and let out a long breath. A spark had been lit. She was not done. She was not gone. She was just beginning. The basement light flickered above her head, once, twice. Then it went out. Total blackness swallowed her. She clutched the phone tightly. Then, something creaked. A step. Above. Slow, heavy. Not fast enough to be panic, not light enough to be innocent. Her breath caught in her throat. The door above her didn't open, but the footsteps didn't stop. In the pitch-dark silence, Evelyn stood still, every muscle tense, as the sound of footsteps crept down the stairs, one deliberate step at a time. Grace whispered, "We walk quietly, or not at all." Evelyn didn't breathe until the footsteps retreated. A single slow step, then another, then silence. Her legs buckled the moment she was sure whoever it was had gone. She slid down the wall and stayed there, wrapped in the thick darkness. The phone screen glowed faintly in her lap like a firefly caught in a jar dot. She didn't move, not for minutes, maybe more. Her ears strained for any sound from above. Water running, the fridge door, voices. Nothing dot, then a buzz dot. The screen lit up again. One new email dot from Grace dot, call me, use audio only, now dot. Her fingers hovered. She hit the green button. The call connected with a hollow click. Evelyn? Grace's voice was low, taut, urgent. Are you safe? I'm breathing, Evelyn whispered. For now. That's enough. For tonight. A beat of silence. Tell me everything. She did. In pieces. Not all at once. Evelyn's voice cracked only once. When she mentioned the lavender perfume, the rest came out brittle and flat, like old paper dot Grace didn't interrupt. She listened, sharp as a blade in the dark dot. When Evelyn finished, Grace exhaled slowly. This isn't abandonment. This is survival. I raised that boy, Evelyn murmured. I held his hand when his father died. I gave them everything I had. You're not leaving your family, Grace said gently. You're escaping your captors. Silence again, but this time it didn't hurt as much. I don't even have shoes down here, Evelyn said finally with a bitter laugh. You won't need them. I'll get you out. But it has to be clean and fast. Evelyn nodded, forgetting Grace couldn't see her. There's a window, she added. Small up behind the water heater. I don't know if... Don't touch it, Grace snapped. They may have set up surveillance. Any sudden moves and this whole thing collapses. Evelyn swallowed. So what do we do? We walk quietly, Grace whispered. Or not at all. The phrase landed like a cold hand on the back of her neck. Grace continued, more carefully now. There's someone who might help. David's ex-wife, Sarah. Evelyn blinked in the dark. Why her? She's been through her own version of this. She's no fan of David, but she's not reckless. She knows how to stay invisible. If she agrees to help, she could be a lifeline. Evelyn remembered Sarah's eyes. Tired, watchful, but kind. She had come by the house once after the divorce, just to drop off a photo album for the kids. She'd hugged Evelyn without words. I don't want to drag her into this. She's already in it, Grace said. Your son made sure of that years ago. The silence returned, but now it buzzed with purpose. Evelyn opened her messages. She stared at the blank screen, thumbs hovering above the keyboard. Her hands were trembling again. She inhaled, closed her eyes, and pictured Sarah's face, the quiet dignity, the resilience. Then she began to type. Hi, Sarah. I hope this message finds you in a place of peace. I wouldn't reach out unless it mattered. It's Evelyn. I need help. I can't explain everything here, but I'm trapped, and I need someone I can trust. If you're able, please reply. I'll follow your lead. She read it twice. Deleted, a word, added one dot, then hit send. The seconds that followed dragged. Her phone felt heavier with each breath. Buzz. A single text flashed across the screen. Sarah. Whatever you need, I'm ready. Evelyn's pulse quickened, but as her eyes adjusted, she noticed something new on the basement floor near the wall. A small, blinking red light, tucked under the shelf. My heart pounded, my power finally on paper. The conference room was barely bigger than a closet. Fluorescent lights buzzed above the battered table. A dusty ficus leaned in the corner, as if it, too, wanted to hear what was about to unfold. Evelyn sat straight-backed. The lease agreement spread before her like a final exam. Across from her, Sarah tapped a pen against the form, brow furrowed. The air was thick with possibility and risk. My heart pounded, my power finally on paper. Evelyn didn't speak. She let Sarah sit with it. The office belonged to a friend of Grace's, someone who owed her a favor and liked to keep their name off records. There were no family photos on the desk, no signs of personal history. That was the point. It was a place meant to be forgotten, just like the woman now sitting in its chair, Dot. Finally, Sarah looked up. So this is real? Yes, Evelyn said, steady but soft. It is. The lease would put the ranch, her late husband's pride and joy, and the last asset in her name, under Sarah's legal management. A short-term agreement, renewable with a backdated start. On paper, it looked like Evelyn had stepped aside voluntarily, off the grid under the radar. It's just for now, Evelyn added, until I get where I need to go. Sarah hesitated, glancing at the form again. And you're sure David won't sniff this out? If he does, Evelyn replied, he'll be too late. They sat in silence for a moment longer. Sarah finally uncapped the pen. If we do this, I need to know you're ready for the fallout. Evelyn gave a thin smile. I was ready the moment they locked that basement door. With a deep breath, Sarah signed. Her name, bold and elegant, landed like a flag planted on foreign soil. They exchanged no hugs, just a look. The kind that lives longer than words. As they left the building, the sun outside felt too bright. Evelyn squinted against it, pulling her sweater tighter around. To her, they walked 2 blocks to a neutral ATM. No cameras, no storefront. Evelyn slid the check into the slot, hands steady. The machine whirred, blinked, and accepted it. Transaction complete. With that, the ranch, her history, was in motion. As they parted ways on the sidewalk, Sarah gave her one last glance. I'll keep the car running, just in case. Evelyn nodded. Don't wait too long if I don't come. Sarah didn't answer. She just walked away, shoulders squared. Evelyn turned in the opposite direction and headed toward the pharmacy, her steps more deliberate than they'd been in months. Not rushed, not fearful. Purposeful. Inside comma. She browsed the shelves she didn't need, picking up a bottle of hand lotion just to appear normal. At the counter, the young clerk, Lily, smiled warmly. Hi, Miss Reed. You look different today. Do I? Evelyn replied, raising an eyebrow. Lily nodded. I don't know, you just look taller or something. Evelyn smiled faintly. Maybe I am. On the walk home, her breath synced with her steps. Her mind, for once, wasn't cluttered with should-haves or what-ifs, only asterisk, next dot, asterisk. But as she reached the corner of her block, her phone buzzed. She pulled it from her pocket, half expecting another message from Grace or Sarah. Instead, it was David. The screen displayed a text. Short, sharp, unmistakably suspicious, asterisk. David. What's happening with the ranch? Evelyn's fingers curled slowly around the phone. She stood frozen in the middle of the sidewalk, the wind tugging at her coat, wondering how much he knew and how fast he was coming. David's voice was clipped, like an incoming storm. The text still glared from Evelyn's phone screen as she walked briskly past the neighbor's hedges. What's happening with the ranch? No greeting, no context, just a demand, terse and sharp. She didn't reply right away, not on the sidewalk where anyone could see. She slipped the phone back into her coat pocket and kept walking, her pulse thudding against her ribs like a muffled drum. Inside the house, the air felt stale, or maybe it was just her nerves folding in. She pulled the curtains closed and locked the front door. Twice. Then, only then, did she sit at the edge of the kitchen table and type her reply. Asterisk, hi David. Everything is fine. Lee's paperwork was handled, and let me know if you have specific questions. Asterisk. She hovered over the keyboard. Her hands ached from clenching. She clicked send. It didn't take him long to call. Evelyn. His tone was flat, but something sharp crackled beneath it. There's a problem with the ranch account. Her eyes drifted to the fridge door. The ranch. Harold's dream, her refuge. Now a battlefield. What kind of problem? She asked, steady as she could. You missed a payment on the contractor, David snapped. I just got off the phone with him. You told me you were keeping that end covered. I transferred control, David, she replied. Sarah's managing it now. She'll get it sorted. A pause. You brought her asterisk into this? His voice cracked like thunder through the receiver. Are you out of your mind? Evelyn closed her eyes. I'm well within it for the first time in years. He swore, just under his breath, but loud enough for her to hear. Then the line went dead as she stared at the phone, chest tight, palms sweating. The wind picked up outside. The old oak beside the porch groaned, branches scraping against the roof. A storm was gathering, and she could feel it crawling beneath her skin. An hour later, her phone rang again. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Mrs. Reed? A male voice said. This is Justin from Elk Valley Repairs. We're still waiting on payment for the roofing job on the barn. You were listed as primary contact. I hate to bug you, but we've sent 2 invoices. Her stomach dropped. You shouldn't be calling me. The ranch is under new management. I understand, Justin replied, trying to stay polite. But the check that was supposed to cover our materials bounced. We're holding the crew until this gets fixed. She hung up, heart racing. She didn't have the funds. Not anymore. They were supposed to be untouched, left in the account she and Harold had kept for emergencies. Now emptied. She knew it. David died. A soft knock came at the kitchen door. Lily peeked in, her brows knit tight. You okay? She asked. You've been pacing for an hour. I'm fine. You don't look fine. Evelyn's jaw stiffened. You don't know what I'm dealing with. No, I don't, Lily said gently. But maybe I could if you'd let someone in. I let someone in once, Evelyn said. He put me in a basement. Lily recoiled, blinking. Don't worry, Evelyn added. I've learned my lesson. She turned away before Lily could speak again, retreating into the living room where she sat on the couch, staring into nothing. Her laptop sat on the coffee table. She opened it. New email. Subject line. Asterisk. Urgent. Property. Default. Notification. Asterisk. She clicked it open. Foreclosure done. The bank had received no payments in 3 months. Final notice issued. And at the bottom, in smaller print, documentation revealing multiple withdrawals from the ranch's rental account, signed electronically by David. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. He'd been bleeding the ranch dry, behind her back. All this time, Evelyn leaned back, the room spinning as rage and betrayal collided in her chest. Her hand reached for the phone, but this time, not to call Grace. She was calling someone else. The clock ticks on the foreclosure, every second louder. The clock ticks on the foreclosure, every second louder. In the stillness of the kitchen, Evelyn could hear everything, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint creak of the furnace, and most of all, the sound of time slipping away. The foreclosure notice still glowed from her laptop screen, casting a pale blue light across the countertop. 48 hours. That's all she had left to keep the ranch, Harold's ranch, from vanishing into a bank auction. After that, it would be gone, and with it, the last trace of a life she'd spent decades holding together. A kettle whistled behind her. She hadn't meant to turn it on. She poured the hot water into a chipped mug and let the steam fog her glasses. Mom, Lily's voice came softly from the hallway. You're scaring me. Evelyn didn't look up. Good. Lily stepped into the kitchen, arms wrapped tight around herself. There's a literal countdown on your screen. We're not just losing the ranch, we could lose everything. I know what's at stake. Then act asterisk, Lily pleaded. Whatever you're doing with Grace, it's not working. We need real money, real solutions, not secrets and half measures. Evelyn turned slowly, eyes hollow but bright. Secrets are all that's kept me alive this long. The phone buzzed again. David. Third call in 20 minutes. She didn't flinch, this time. Lily crossed her arms. What's he saying? I don't know, I'm not listening. Evelyn reached for her glasses and cleaned them with the edge of her sweater. He doesn't get my ears anymore. A new message pinged, this time from Grace. We've scraped together just enough, but you have to do the transfer now before they lock the account. Use the Shell Company line. They won't trace it immediately. Evelyn opened the banking app. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard. The total flashed on the screen. The sum was almost everything she had left. The little remained of her savings, emergency funds, pension fragments. all funneled into a wire that might not even work. Lily stood beside her now, watching the numbers tick down. You don't have to do this alone. I'm not, Evelyn replied quietly, but I am the one who has to press the button. Routing number, amount, destination. 1,000 little boxes on the screen, 1,000 chances to second-guess. She took a long breath. Harold used to say, a plan's not a plan until it costs you something. This one had cost nearly everything. The cursor blinked over the word, asterisk, confirm. Asterisk. Her finger hovered, another buzz. Voicemail again. David's voice this time. Clipped, tense, unraveling. Mom, what the hell are you doing? I checked the books. I know you're up to something. You're making this worse. Pick up the damn phone. Evelyn set the phone face down. He's unraveling, she muttered. That's a start. Her hand still trembled. Not from fear, but the weight of choice. Every piece of her life had led to this quiet, invisible moment. There'd be no applause, no cheers, just the soft click of a transaction. I need quiet, she told Lily. Lily stepped back. Evelyn exhaled. You've taken enough from me, David, she whispered, as though he were sitting across the table. And then she clicked asterisk, confirm. Asterisk. The transfer spun for a moment as if deciding whether it would accept her sacrifice. Then asterisk, transaction, successful. Asterisk. Relief didn't come right away. Only silence. She leaned back in the chair, the cushion squeaking beneath her. Her shoulders sagged. It was done. But then her email dinged. A new message. Asterisk. Subject. Account access alert. New login detected. Evelyn stared. The sender was her bank. She clicked it open. Asterisk. Someone has logged into your financial dashboard from an unrecognized device. IP address, Elk Grove, California. David City. Evelyn's breath hitched. Her hands curled slowly into fists as the screen glowed brighter. David was watching. She wasn't just playing defense anymore. Now, it was war. In the silence, my letter screamed loud. Deliberate. Her hand firm despite the heaviness in her chest. The paper beneath her bore no creases, no corrections, just rows of clean, aching, truth. Asterisk, David, asterisk, asterisk. I never wanted to fight you. I wanted to believe the boy I raised was still somewhere inside the man I now barely recognize. But the ranch was never yours to bleed. It was built with hands that never asked, sacrifices that came quietly. And love you now seemed to treat like a ledger to balance. Asterisk. She paused. The pen hovered. Asterisk. You locked me away. And maybe worse, you thought I'd stay quiet. Asterisk. Evelyn set the pen down and read the letter back, her throat tightening at every line. She didn't cry. The tears had come weeks ago, back when she still hoped he might apologize. Now this wasn't a plea. It was a release. She folded the letter and slipped it into an envelope. But instead of sealing it, she stared at it for a moment longer. Her eyes drifted to the drawer in the corner of the desk, Harold's drawer, the one he used to keep spare keys and war medals and paper clips that never matched. She opened it, slid the letter inside, and closed it slowly. Letting go of the past wasn't an act of erasure. It was an act of survival. Outside, the rain had begun. Soft, almost apologetic. Evelyn stood and moved through the house like a woman preparing for a final performance. The rooms had been cleaned, the guest bed stripped. She ran her fingers across the picture frames on the hallway wall. Her wedding photo, Lily's graduation, a shot of David holding his newborn daughter. The last time Evelyn remembered him smiling with real softness. The wind rattled the back door. Lily's voice called faintly from the front. Mom, you here? I'm in the den, Evelyn replied, her voice steady. Lily appeared in the doorway, her wet hair clinging to her coat collar. It smells like lavender and old books in here, she said, trying to smile. I aired it out. You're not going anywhere, are you? Evelyn looked at her daughter and gave a small, wry smile. Not yet. Lily tilted her head, confused but sensing something deeper. She didn't press. She just said, "Okay," and disappeared toward the kitchen. Evelyn turned back toward the window. The phone buzzed on the table. Damed Grace. She picked it up. "Hello? We're clear on the transfer," Grace said quickly, "but keep things quiet. No ripples, Evelyn. None. They're watching." "I know," Evelyn whispered, "but the ripples aren't all mine." She hung up. And then, for a breathless moment, peace. The house was still. The storm outside was only noise. Her shoulders finally lowered, her eyes closed. For the first time in weeks, she let herself believe she might be winning. Then, asterisk, knock knock. Asterisk, not on the window, not on her mind. The front door. Her pulse spiked. She froze, every nerve ringing. She crossed the living room with careful steps, each one quieter than the last. Another knock, heavier this time. She reached for the handle. Opened it. And there he was. David. Rain soaked, unshaven. His eyes locked on hers with a look she hadn't seen in years. Somewhere between fury and desperation. Asterisk. Before she could speak, he stepped forward, dripping water onto the threshold, and said in a low, unrecognizable voice, "We need to talk. Now." He demanded the keys. I offered cold facts instead. He demanded the keys. I offered cold facts instead. David stood dripping on the porch, fists clenched, jaw tight. Rain matted his hair to his forehead, and his eyes burned not just with fury, but confusion. Like someone who couldn't recognize the battlefield anymore. "Let me in," he snapped. "You're in," Evelyn said evenly. "Unless you plan on kicking down my threshold, I'd suggest keeping your voice steady." "I want the papers," he said, stepping closer. "The lease. The transfer documents. Whatever you cooked up with Grace and that damn ex-wife of mine." "I didn't cook anything," Evelyn replied, her voice measured. "It's all legal. All filed. You signed half the permissions yourself, remember? Or didn't you read the fine print?" "I signed what you asked me to," David hissed. "Like I always did." "Exactly." She took a slow breath. "You signed, and I followed through. That's called trust. The thing you incinerated when you siphoned money out of the ranch accounts without telling anyone." David's mouth twitched. "I was managing it. You were bleeding it dry." He glanced behind her, his gaze landing somewhere inside the house, probably at Lily, whose silhouette hovered just inside the hallway, watching with quiet dread. "Mom, you don't understand the pressure I've been under," he said, softer now. "The taxes, the repairs, the partnerships." "I do understand," Evelyn cut in, "because I lived it. I built that place with Harold from dust and fence posts. I buried my husband in its soil. You think you invented pressure? You just repackaged it and blamed me when it cracked." David took another step forward. "You're tearing this family apart." She shook her head. "No, David. I'm finally done letting you do it." His nostrils flared, but he didn't reply. For a moment, the only sound was the rain hitting the porch rail and the faint creak of a neighbor's window sliding open. Evelyn glanced sideways and saw Mrs. Granger's curtains shift. Good. Let them see her now, standing tall, steady, unshaken. "You want the keys?" she asked. "Which ones? To the house, the barn, the lie you've been living? Don't talk to me like I'm a stranger." Evelyn stepped onto the threshold, her voice low. "Then stop acting like one." David's mouth opened, then closed. He looked tired suddenly. Smaller, not like a child, but like a man who had finally run out of angles. Lily's voice floated in from behind her. "You should go, David." He turned to the sound of it. "Lily, don't get involved." "I already am," she said, "and you're not going to yell at her anymore." David looked between the two women, one anchored in the doorway, the other inside, her arms crossed, her jaw set. Evelyn watched the decision flicker across his face. Pride, resistance, and finally, retreat. Without another word, he turned and stepped back into the rain. The downpour swallowed his figure as he made his way to the car. Evelyn stood at the door until the red of his taillights disappeared around the bend. She closed the door gently. Lily stepped forward. "Are you okay?" Evelyn didn't answer right away. She walked to the coat rack, took off her shawl, and hung it carefully. Then she looked at her daughter. "I've never been more okay." Lily gave a small, amazed nod. They didn't speak again for several minutes. The silence was no longer terrifying. It was earned. Then Evelyn's phone buzzed. "Dot?" She picked it up, expecting Grace. But it was Sarah. Did text. "Need more time on the lease. Can't finalize until Friday. I'm sorry." Evelyn's fingers tightened around the phone. Friday was too far. Her window was already closing and someone else might be crawling through it. I added one clause, and his world tilted. The kitchen clock ticked past 7 a.m., but Evelyn had been awake long before the light arrived. She sat at the table in her robe, fingers cold around a mug of untouched coffee. Her phone glowed beside her. Sarah's latest text. "I need more time. I'm pregnant. I'm sorry." Pregnant. Evelyn read the word again, blinking it back into focus. Everything went shifting. What had once been a firm escape plan now threatened to wobble at the edges. She reached for her laptop and opened the lease file. The cursor blinked in the corner, expectant. Her gaze doctor. She began typing. Just one paragraph, quiet but sharp. Asterisk. In the event of a delay in lease execution, all temporary legal control and financial responsibility shall revert to the most recently registered co-signee. David's signature, last year's harmless scribble on a routine ranch form, now sat like a loaded chamber. She didn't smile. She didn't blink. She saved the file under a new name. Addendum. Authority transfer. PDF. "Mom?" Lily stood in the doorway, her eyes lined with sleeplessness. "You've been up all night," she said softly. "There was work to do," Evelyn replied without turning. Lily stepped closer, reading over her shoulder. "Is this the lease?" "It's an addendum," Evelyn said. "That looks like legal bait." "It's leverage." Lily crossed her arms. "You sure that won't make things worse?" Evelyn turned to face her. "He's already emptied the accounts, lied to the bank, and locked me in a basement. I'm not worried about hurting his feelings." Lily's face tightened. "That's not what I meant." "I know," Evelyn said, softer this time. She clicked over to her email, attached the addendum, and began typing. Asterisk subject. "Only if you're sure. Either way, I support you. Asterisk." She paused. Then hit send. The next 30 minutes stretched. She reheated her coffee, wiped down the sink, and stood quietly at the window while the cat jumped on the sill and pawed at the glass. Then, ping. Sarah's reply. Asterisk signed and scanned. "I'm all in. No turning back. Asterisk. Evelyn downloaded the document and filed it in a new folder marked Harvest, a name Harold once gave their ranch binders. "You don't get to harvest until you've broken your back prepping the ground," he used to say, and weathered the storms. She had weathered enough. Her phone vibrated in her palm. A text from David. "Why am I listed on a lease agreement?" The words stabbed cold through her ribs. He had. Didn't know. Not about Sarah. Not about the clause. Not until now. Her breath slowed. She turned from the window and sat back at the table. She didn't reply. A second message came. "What did you do?" This time her hand tightened around the phone. It vibrated again, a third message trying to wedge its way through, but she didn't look. Lily appeared in the hallway. "Everything okay?" Evelyn looked up, steady. "It will be." "I heard the pinging," Lily said. "David?" "Yes." Lily hesitated. "What does he know?" "Enough." They stood in silence. The light outside had shifted again, brighter now, but not warmer. "You're not afraid?" Lily asked. Evelyn smiled faintly. "Of him? No." Lily gave a small nod, but worry lingered in her eyes. Evelyn stood, walked to the file drawer, and tucked the printed addendum into the Harvest folder. Her steps were calm. No more second guessing. She wasn't waiting anymore. She was moving. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. Asterisk. Evelyn set the phone on the table and walked into the living room. Behind her, it lit up again. The storm hadn't passed. It was circling back, and this time it had her name on it. Asterisk. He thought he was a silent partner. He was about to pay. Evelyn sat in the den, phone pressed to her ear, voice low. Grace's tone was clipped but calm, the way it always was when reality had sharp edges. He signed the permissions. It's on record, Grace said. Whether he knew it or not, he's legally exposed. He's the fallback. That clause makes him responsible unless Sarah finalizes, which she can't right now. Evelyn nodded slowly. So, if he fights it? We push back harder. You're covered, but it won't be quiet. Nothing had been quiet for a long time. She thanked Grace, ended the call, and turned off the lamp beside her. The room dimmed, but the weight didn't lift. She didn't want a war, but she wasn't backing down from one either. The knock came 15 minutes later. No text, no call, just the sharp, hard knock of someone who thought he still had rights to everything on the other side of the door. Evelyn opened it. David stepped inside without asking. No rain this time, just heat, his rage rising off him in waves. You used me, he said. Evelyn shut the door behind him. I used the law. You involved Sarah? His voice cracked on her name. You blindsided me. You signed the authorization last year. You called it just paperwork, remember? David paced the length of the kitchen, running his fingers through his hair. You set me up. No, she said, walking calmly to the counter. I finally got ahead of you. She poured 2 cups of coffee. He didn't ask for one, but she placed it on the table anyway. David stared at it, seething. I can't cover that liability, he said. You know that. If the lease fails, if the bank comes... They'll come to you first, she said gently. Not me. This isn't justice, he growled. This is revenge. Evelyn looked at him over the rim of her cup. If it were revenge, David, I'd have sent the letter I wrote. He blinked. What letter? Doesn't matter now. Silence. Then, I'll retract the lease. You can't. It's filed. Signed. Final. He stepped closer. I'll tell them you coerced me, that you misled me. I'll take this public if I have to. I hope you do, Evelyn said softly. Let's talk about what you did with the ranch funds, with my accounts, with your children's trust. His eyes flicked. Fear, just for a second. Footsteps entered the doorway. Lily. She froze, seeing them both. Am I interrupting? No, Evelyn said. We're just having coffee. David's jaw worked, but no words came. He looked at Lily, eyes pleading. Sweetheart. But she shook her head quietly. Don't. She moved to stand beside Evelyn, not saying more, just standing there. Choosing. David backed away, glancing from one woman to the other. You really think this is over? He asked. I think you're over, Evelyn replied. He stood for one final beat, then turned and walked out. Not storming this time, just leaving. Evelyn waited until she heard the car start, then turned toward the window. His taillights faded again, but something was different this time. Final. Lily stepped closer. Are you okay? I will be. Evelyn picked up the 2 coffee cups, one untouched, one half drained, and emptied both into the sink, then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Your ranch story is trending nationwide. Evelyn stared at the screen, stunned. Beneath the message was a headline. Elderly woman outsmarts son in legal battle over family ranch. Her face was in the photo. She hadn't planned on becoming a symbol, but now everyone was watching. Outrage and applause painted the comments page. Evelyn scrolled in silence, her thumb hovering above a rising tide of reactions. Some comments hit like punches. Others wrapped around her like armor. Classic family greed. Bless this woman. Boomers always blame their kids. This woman is a hero. My daughter did the same to me, only I didn't fight back. Lily sat beside her on the couch, legs tucked under a blanket, laptop open. It's picking up steam. Local story of the day on 3 regional feeds. 2 national blogs already reposted it. Evelyn didn't respond. She stared at the article again, her face at the top, shadowed by her front porch light, expression unreadable. The headline beneath it read, "She outsmarted her own son, and she's just getting started." She exhaled slowly. "I didn't want it to be this way. But you didn't choose this fight," Lily said gently. "You just finally answered it." The words settled deep in Evelyn's chest. Dot answered. She clicked to the next screen. The story had gone live less than an hour ago, but already the threads ran wild. Speculation, praise, criticism, and worse. One post shared a grainy photo from the farmer's co-op 5 years ago. Evelyn in overalls, laughing beside a crate of apples. The caption, "This woman gave me free squash once when I forgot my wallet. Hope she's okay." A tightness built in her throat. Dot. Her phone buzzed. New email. Subject, media inquiry, feature request. Evelyn opened it cautiously. Jake Bellamy, independent journalist, reputation decent. Attached was a brief note. "Ms. Reed, your story clearly struck a nerve. If you're willing, I'd like to help you share it in your words. No edits, no misquotes. You control the tone. Asterisk, Lily leaned over. "That's the guy from the Valley Daily. He's good. No clickbait." "I'm not sure I want to go wider," Evelyn murmured. "It's already too loud. But this way, you speak, not just react." That part landed hard. She'd spent weeks playing defense, moving quietly, dodging threats, surviving storms. Maybe now was the moment to pivot. "I don't want my anger to be the story," she said. "Then write your truth before someone else does." They didn't respond to Jake. Instead, Evelyn opened a blank document, and started. The words came slow, then faster. Not polished, not performative, just honest. Asterisk, I didn't want to become a headline. I wanted to be left alone, safe, whole. But when your voice is buried too long, it stops waiting for permission. Asterisk, Lily read over her shoulder, silent. She helped fix a few typos, rephrased 2 clunky sentences, but she didn't reshape it. Not a word. When Evelyn finished, her hands trembled, not from fear, but the rawness of being open. "I think I've said enough," she whispered. Lily nodded. "It's powerful." Evelyn attached the file to a fresh email. No long message, just, "My story. Publish only with my sign -off. Asterisk." Then she pressed send. She stood from the couch and walked to the window. The street outside looked ordinary, but something irreversible had shifted inside her. The reply came 20 minutes later. "We're live Saturday morning." She read it twice, then closed the laptop. But before she could stand, her phone lit up. Unknown number. No voicemail. Just a transcript notification. She opened it slowly. "This is David's attorney calling on behalf of our client. We need to discuss the recent legal filings and your public statements. Please return the call within 24 hours. Evelyn's breath caught, not in panic, but preparation. The headlines had reached his lawyers. She wasn't just in the storm anymore. She was becoming the eye of it. Asterisk, I disclosed my heart, and strangers recognized themselves. By dawn on Saturday, Evelyn was already awake, her laptop open and cursor blinking on the op-ed site's homepage. The article had gone live. Her face was there again, only this time beneath her own title. A letter from the woman who wouldn't stay silent. Lily was still asleep upstairs. The house creaked in soft intervals, as if it, too, was waiting. Evelyn clicked the link. She expected judgment. She braced for cruelty. But what met her was something else entirely. This made me cry at my kitchen table. My mother was Evelyn once. I wish she'd had a Grace, a Sarah, a voice. I'm 61. I've never stood up for myself until today. Dozens became hundreds. Then thousands. Messages filled the inbox connected to the story. Some were jagged, from people still bleeding. Others were soft, healing aloud. Evelyn read them all. Each one lit a quiet room inside her. Some spoke of betrayals by their children, others by spouses. A few simply said, "Thank you for making me feel less alone." The weight she had carried, the shame, the silence, shifted. It hadn't disappeared, but it had been shared, and that made it lighter. She wiped her eyes and stood, stretching slowly as the sun spilled gold across the counter. She fed. They sipped in quiet, broken only by the occasional ping from her inbox. Later, as Evelyn folded laundry, she opened a handwritten letter that had arrived in the morning mail. It was from a woman in Idaho. "You reminded me I still have a spine. I haven't used it in 20 years. Thank you for waking it up." She held the letter for a long moment before placing it in a shoebox she now called the shelf of proof. That afternoon, another email arrived. Subject: Women's Justice League. Invitation to speak. The body was short, warm, inviting. Would Evelyn consider sharing her story at their annual empowerment event? She stared at it for a while, then forwarded it to Grace without comment. Her heart beat faster. Not from fear, but possibility. Across town, David sat in his office. The op-ed open on his monitor. He read it in silence, shoulders hunched, eyes unmoving. His jaw clenched with every paragraph, every line that named what he'd taken and what she'd reclaimed. He slammed the laptop shut. Outside, a neighbor walked past his window, paused, then kept going. He knew. They all knew. But Evelyn wasn't thinking about David. She was sitting on the back porch now, wrapped in her shawl, looking out over the bare trees. Winter had nearly passed. She could feel it loosening its grip. She wasn't healed. But she was free. The phone buzzed in her lap. She almost ignored it until she saw the name. Grace. She answered on the second ring. "Hey," she said gently. Grace didn't lead with a joke or a question. Her voice was steady. "The test results are back." Evelyn closed her eyes. The porch, the wind, the new strength. It all narrowed to one moment. "Tell me," she said, her voice calm. But inside, the past and future held their breath together. When the doctor paused, I braced. "This is my real fight." Evelyn sat on the edge of the examination table, her robe too thin, but her blood warm. The clinic's fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The doctor's face was kind but unreadable as he cleared his throat. "The images show a lump," he began, voice gentle. "Small, early stage. Still, it needs treatment." Her heart stuttered. The word lump sank like a weight. She closed her eyes briefly, focusing on the sterile scent and the steady beep of the machine behind his desk. "What kind of treatment?" Her voice came out softer than she intended. "Biopsy next," the doctor said. "Radiation or surgery may be required, but your prognosis is favorable if we act quickly." Evelyn nodded, but the fear coiled in her chest wasn't in the words. It was in the pause, the look between the doctor and the nurse, the moment when hope and worry collided. Her fingers brushed the cotton of her robe. Afterward, in the waiting room, Lily's arms swallowed her. Evelyn could feel trembling, not just from relief, but from raw vulnerability. "Mom," Lily whispered, voice breaking. "What's going on? I'm so scared." Evelyn pressed an arm around her daughter, steadying her with quiet strength. "I'm not done," she said, though her own voice quavered. "I promise. I'm going to fight this." Lily sniffled, nodding against her coat. Evelyn could feel both their hearts pounding. Later that day, after tests, David appeared at the front door. No fanfare, just cautious footsteps. His eyes were soft, full of guilt and something unfamiliar. Fear. He extended an envelope. Inside, flowers and a handwritten note. "I'm scared too. I'm here." Evelyn took it without looking up. She didn't reach for the note, yet, but his presence said more than any words could. He lingered in the hallway, not pushing for conversation. She said gently. Thank you. That was enough for now. At home, the doctor's detailed follow-up email arrived. The plan: biopsy first, then meet again. In 2 weeks. They discussed recovery, side effects, how she would manage treatments while keeping the ranch transition. But Evelyn focused on one line: favorable outcome if addressed promptly. Faye. That evening, Lily tucked her into bed. She pressed Evelyn's hand and whispered, "You'll beat this." Evelyn smiled, squeezing back. "And then I'll build something new." Late into the night, Evelyn sat at her old drafting table, lit by a single lamp. She took out a pen and notebook and began sketching ideas. A healing retreat, she wrote, space for older women to renew, gardens, quiet cabins, shared meals, workshops, a place to remember that endings could be beginnings. She folded the paper, placing it next to the Harvest folder on the shelf, a heartbeat beside hard-won battles. By dawn, she had packed a bag. Soft clothes, journals, a few photos of the ranch as it used to be, gold fields, smiling faces. Lily hovered, worry and hope in her eyes. She kissed her mother's cheek. "I'll check in." Evelyn nodded. "Be gentle with my rooms." Lily hugged her again before leaving. Standing by the porch door, bag at her feet, Evelyn inhaled the cool morning air. The sky was pale, the wind gentle, coaxing more than warning. She was stepping into two parallel futures, the fight and what comes after. Her phone buzzed. She looked down. Sarah. "We need help setting up the nursery." Evelyn unzipped her bag, the retreat notebook nestled inside beside her last blank page. "Let's build something beautiful," she whispered, but outside, the wind picked up again, and the road ahead felt both fragile and full of promise. New life on the land, and hope in our hearts. The nursery wasn't much yet, just a spare bedroom at the front of the house, the old guest room that had collected dust and drafts for a decade. But as Evelyn stood beside Sarah and Lily, holding a curtain rod with trembling hands, it felt like sacred ground. Outside, the wind rattled the eaves, but inside, warmth bloomed. "Let me get the level," Sarah said, gently taking the rod from Evelyn's grip. "I've got it." Evelyn insisted, steadying herself. The tremor had returned that morning, subtle but there, like a reminder of what waited beyond diagnosis. But today was about beginnings, not endings. The curtains were pale yellow with tiny green vines stitched along the edges. Handmade. Lily's idea. "Sunlight's good for babies," she'd said, "and for tired women trying to remember how to hope." Together they hung the panels, smoothed crib sheets, folded tiny onesies into wicker baskets. When Evelyn found herself holding a pair of socks barely larger than her thumb, her throat caught. They felt impossibly soft. Sarah glanced up. "You okay?" "I'm just grateful," Evelyn whispered. "For this. For now." Later that afternoon, David arrived. His steps on the porch were slower, the weight in his shoulders finally visible. He carried a small tool bag, eyes down. "I heard you needed help with the shelving," he said, not looking at her directly. "We've got it handled," Evelyn replied, voice neutral. But she stepped aside. As he measured the wall, his voice dropped. "I never asked how you did it. Raised us, managed all this. I figured it just happened." "It didn't," Evelyn said. "It took everything. And then some." David placed a bracket on the wall and turned to her. "I've made a mess of things." "You have," she said without malice. He nodded. "I want to do better. For him. For her." Evelyn looked down at the bassinet. "Then start by listening more than you speak." A long pause stretched between them. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded draft. "Lease documents. Adjusted." "I made changes," he said. "Family protections, co-ownership clauses. I want this to be more than just property again." Evelyn took the papers, her fingers brushing his. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was movement. By sunset, the nursery was transformed. A rocker sat in the corner bathed in golden light. A mobile twirled gently above the crib, wooden horses and soft stars. Evelyn sat on the rocker, her body aching but her spirit alight. Sarah knelt beside her, resting a hand on her knee. The house smelled of sawdust, lavender, and something like cinnamon. Generations had passed through these walls, some lost, some still searching. But tonight, it felt like the foundation was shifting beneath them, towards something gentler. Lily returned with tea and music, and they sat in a soft hush. 3 women connected not by blood alone, but by survival, by choice, by reclaimed breath. The ranch had been fought over, broken open, nearly buried, but now it hummed with life. Evelyn leaned her head back, letting the moment root in her bones. The phone rang from the hallway, and she stood slowly and walked over, glancing at the caller ID. Jake. She picked up. His voice was warm. Evelyn, we're doing a Mother's Day feature, National Peace. Women who rewrite the story. I know it's early, but are you in? Evelyn looked back at the nursery door. Let me think on it, she said, but her eyes already held the answer. She wasn't done writing. Standing behind the mic, I felt seen, for the first time. The barn had been scrubbed, strung with soft white lights, and cleared of hay for the occasion. What was once a place of labor had become, for today, a cathedral of gratitude. Folding chairs lined the wide planks of the old floor, filled with neighbors, friends, strangers who knew her only from a headline, and came anyway. The scent of lilac and lemon loaf drifted from the refreshment table. Evelyn stood just off stage in a pressed linen blouse, one hand gripping her note cards, the other resting lightly on the arm of the wooden podium. It was Mother's Day, and for the first time in a long time, she wasn't hiding. Lily gave her a small nod from the front row. Sarah smiled softly from behind her. Even David, in a neat blazer and borrowed humility, stood tall but quiet, hands clasped in front of him. Evelyn stepped to the mic, cleared her throat, and spoke. I used to think strength is something you either had or didn't, that it lived in the loud voices, the decisive hands, the men who took and the women who survived. She paused. But I've learned that strength can look like silence, right before it turns into a storm. Laughter, a quiet ripple of it. She hadn't planned that line, but the truth of it carried. My name is Evelyn Reed. Some of you know me as the woman from the article, others as the one who almost lost her land, her voice, and her family, all in 1 year. She glanced at Lily. But today, I'm none of those things. Today, I'm a woman starting over, and that's its own kind of legacy. A stillness took over the barn. She felt it settle in her bones. I was betrayed by people I love. I was silenced in my own home. I got sick. And for a while, I let the story end there. But stories don't end until we stop telling them. So I picked up the pen, and I rewrote mine. Tears glistened on a few cheeks in the audience. Evelyn blinked back her own. This land taught me how to work. This home taught me how to endure. But the women in my life, my daughter, my daughter-in-law, the ones who wrote to me from across the country, they taught me how to rise. She closed the note cards. Let them rest on the podium. I don't want to be remembered for surviving. I want to be remembered for choosing joy even when it cost me comfort, for building something that lasts beyond me, for refusing to stay small. Applause rose like a wave, warm then wild. Evelyn stepped back, the sound rushing over her like balm. A woman in a gray pantsuit approached the stage, the local council member. She lifted a small wooden plaque and said into the mic, "Today, we honor Evelyn Reed for her courage, her candor, and her contributions to community resilience. You remind us all that the most radical thing a woman can do is own her voice." More applause. Then David moved forward carefully and helped his mother down the steps. "Proud of you," he said quietly. She met his gaze. "Keep showing up. That's how we move forward." The crowd mingled. Soft music played. Cake was served. But Evelyn stepped outside, letting the air find her. The ranch glowed gold under the late afternoon sun. She saw it now, not as something she was protecting, but something she was passing forward. Sarah appeared at her side. "You ready to rest?" "Soon," Evelyn said, "but not just yet." Behind her, the barn buzzed with laughter, music, new beginnings. She closed her eyes and breathed it all in. A hush fell behind her. She turned. A new voice crackled through the speaker system. "Before we close," Jake said, "we have one more surprise." Evelyn's breath caught, her hand brushing her chest. Whatever came next, it would be hers to meet, unafraid. He called me disposable. Today, I am indispensable. The last notes of the acoustic trio faded as sunlight spilled fully through the barn's open doors. Evelyn stood just beyond the beams, watching guests nibble lemon bars, sharing stories as though the dust of decades had been swept from their souls. The wooden beams overhead bore fairy lights that blinked gently like heartbeats. Evelyn could still feel the echo of her own words in the space. But now it was laughter that filled the air. Genuine, unforced, alive. Jake returned to the mic, smiling. "We've heard from heroes today, but I believe someone else wants to speak before we close." David stood slowly. All heads turned. He cleared his throat, eyes not on the crowd but on Evelyn. "I don't deserve the mic," he began, voice rough, "but I'd regret it forever if I didn't use it now." He looked toward Sarah, who gave a quiet nod, then to Lily, who held his gaze without flinching. "I hurt my family," he said. "Worse. I tried to bury the woman who built everything good in us, and when she fought back, I called it betrayal. But the truth is, she saved us. All of us. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was reverent. He turned to Evelyn, and his voice broke as he said, "Thank you, Mom." Then Sarah stepped forward, something cradled in her arms. The baby wrapped in a soft green quilt, cheeks pink, barely stirring. Evelyn's breath caught as Sarah gently placed him into her arms. "Meet your grandson," she whispered. Evelyn cradled him, her fingers trembling with awe, not fear. The weight of him wasn't heavy. It was hope. He blinked up at her, unknowing, untouched by history, and in his gaze she saw the unbroken thread of something ancient and tender, something that hadn't died with Harold or frayed under betrayal. Legacy. From the crowd, Lily stepped to the mic. Her voice didn't quiver. Not once. "My mom wrote this letter when she thought the world had stopped listening. Today we read it out loud, because now the world listens." She unfolded the page. It wasn't long. "If you ever forget who you are, remember where you come from. Not the hurt, but the healing. Not the silence, but the rising. This land doesn't just carry our work, it carries our witness. Let it remind you, strength is not loud, but it lasts." The room rose to its feet, a standing ovation not of applause, but of reverence. David, quietly, pulled out his phone and began filming. Evelyn, holding the baby, Lily reading, Sarah by her side. The barn full, not just of people, but of stories re-braided into something whole. He lowered the phone, whispered more to himself than anyone. "She saved all of us." Outside, the wind blew gently across the fields. No longer a threat, but a lullaby. Evelyn sat in the rocker they'd placed near the front, the baby asleep against her chest. She watched as the crowd filtered out slowly, hugging one another, taking extra lemon bars, smiling wider than they had coming in. The barn cleared. And Evelyn stayed. Her eyes closed. The baby stirred, then settled. Her body ached, but not in warning, in fullness. This was what it meant to arrive. The land no longer just hers, the silence no longer suffocating, the future not something to fear, but to welcome. Sarah knelt beside her. "You did it." "No," Evelyn murmured, eyes still closed. "We did." And then, softly, the barn doors creaked. Lily returned, a warm wool blanket in hand. She draped it around Evelyn's shoulders, kissed her hair, and sat cross-legged at her feet like a daughter did long ago. They didn't need to speak. Outside, the sky turned the color of beginning. The camera pans out slowly. Evelyn in the rocker, the baby in her arms, Sarah and Lily at her side, golden light cascading through the windows. The ranch, no longer a battlefield, now a sanctuary, fade out on their smiling faces as a new era begins.